The University of Hawaii and both its National Disaster Preparedness Training Center and its Pacific Disaster Center, in partnership with Haley and Aldrich, leads the development of the Community Resilience Extreme Events Portal. This training video is for new users to familiarize them with the portal, enable them to access the Vulnerability Assessment Framework data, and use the related features of the PDC DisasterAWARE platform. For this training, we'll talk about the portal and DisasterAWARE, then walk through accessing the portal, looking at the Rail network vulnerability, showing the data layers for the Vulnerability Assessment Framework, and then demonstrate navigating on the DisasterAWARE platform, making use of wildfire hazards and fire risk events, and exploring situational awareness in DisasterAWARE, as well as asset protection and alerting. The primary goal of the portal is to enhance preparedness, alerting, early warning, and decision-making capabilities to reduce rail-associated fatalities, injuries, economic losses, and disruptions due to weather and other hazards. PDC's DisasterAWARE platform is a global monitoring and alerting system able to integrate source data on a variety of natural and man-made hazards. As an information portal, it provides a global view of current hazards and the people and infrastructure that may be impacted, in a graphic visualization that is driven by the user. It provides situational awareness in the form of maps and reports generated automatically. As a decision support tool, it provides concise information on status and risk. DisasterAWARE also enables text and email alerting. Additionally, the application enables asset tracking for users to monitor risk to stationary or moving assets. Accessing the Community Resilience Extreme Events portal. Our first step in using the portal is to log into DisasterAWARE. I'm starting with the pdc.org website just to show you that there is some online training for using DisasterAWARE that's available to all users. Now we'll access the Community Resilience Extreme Events portal by logging into DisasterAWARE. We're using the test platform, which is the URL testdisasteraware.pdc.org, which hosts the portal. Once you have your username and password entered, hit login, and it may take a few moments for the graphics to load up. This is DisasterAWARE, the disaster management platform developed and operated by the Pacific Disaster Center. We've integrated output data from the Vulnerability Assessment Framework for the state of California and can show you some of the capabilities that allow it to function as a portal for the wildfire rail community. What we see on the screen are the rail network lines in California. We're showing their level of wildfire risk and exposure as indicated by the red and orange colors. You can click on each segment and see the name and location of that rail segment, the overall vulnerability score, the adaptive capacity score, the sensitivity score, the exposure score, and the length of that segment in miles. Exposure metrics were produced using 3 data sets: United States Forest Service burn probability, presence of campgrounds, and the total area of wildland-urban interface and intermix zones. These data sets, along with the data sets for sensitivity and adaptive capacity, are publicly available and come together to form the Wildfire Vulnerability Index. They are stored individually as well in the form of data layers in DisasterAWARE, and users can add them to their view within the portal. We'll pick a few of these layers and add them to the view of the portal. In this case, we'll add wildfire burn probability from exposure, railroad bridges and freight stations from sensitivity, and railway tunnels from adaptive capacity. So let's go ahead and walk through how to add layers to our picture. First of all, I'm going to use a tool that I actually used before, and it's called bookmarks.
Here's a set of bookmarks, and what I'm actually going to do is call up a bookmark that I've already created before for this Sacramento region right in here. When I pull that up, what you'll see is the extent will zoom in, and then just the layers that I want to have in there. And because I've got the network, I'm going to go ahead and add the legend just so you can see some of the networks that are in place. And we're going to add layers, so you're going to see this expand out a little bit. So with this bookmark, I saved the configuration and I saved the extent. Now we're going to move over to the layers. So here is my basically table of contents tree of layers, and what we're looking for is right under here under testing. We have the creep layers, and these are in the creep folder. So I've got rail infrastructure, and I've got a few other ones, and we're going to use the ones that we've called out before. So the ones we're looking for this time are, first of all, wildfire burn probability, right down there. And you see that the legend came up to already tell you what the colors mean, and now those colors fill in the background. The three other layers that we want to bring in are going to be railroad bridges. They are right here. And that's for under sensitivity. We're also going to add railroad freight stations under sensitivity. And then the last one we'll be adding is tunnels. And this is one of the inputs that made up for our adaptive capacity. For most of these layers, we're seeing little icons, and you can see it sort of fills up all of those segments with these icons. But now you see a much more complicated picture, and in some cases a much more usable picture depending on what you're going for in terms of examining your risk. And now one last thing is, rather than take all of these layers back off, we're going to use that bookmark one more time and see if it returns us back to where we were when we started. Just by clicking the Sacramento, the other layers that weren't there before have now been removed, and the extent goes back to where it was.
A core capability of the DisasterAWARE platform is creating and monitoring geolocated hazards. DisasterAWARE tracks both natural hazards and geopolitical hazards to provide the most comprehensive view of the risk facing a community, region, or country. Users on the Community Resilience Extreme Events portal are able to leverage hazards to see potential exposure to the rail network, facilities, and other infrastructure. Additionally, a wildfire risk hazard was prototyped to provide alerts of potential wildfire threat, allowing portal users to further leverage DisasterAWARE functionality for hazards, including alert notification for user-selected regions, as well as for user-provided assets. The prototype wildfire risk hazard, based on a combination of the Fire Weather Index and the Wildfire Suppression Difficulty Index, was created to provide a realistic, but not necessarily definitive, real-time threat to further demonstrate the power of the portal for operational uses within stakeholder agencies.
Now let's explore some of the controls that a Community Resilience Extreme Events portal user might use to locate hazards that could provide useful information in looking at wildfire risk to rail. Here's the basic view of all of the hazards that are shown in the world. And we have the ability, once we see the list, to go up into here where we have filtering, and we have several options to filter on. We could filter on words found in the name. We could use a geographic filter, or we could filter by type. To filter by type, we clear the selection, which currently had all types included, and choose just wildfire and wildfire risk for our purposes, and hit apply. With that, we've brought the number down dramatically, and we can now zoom on in to California to take a look at the rail that we want to see. To get a better view, we'll use the layers to first of all take off layers that we're not using, such as those for earthquake and for tropical storms. and make sure that we add on the layers that we do care about. And with that, we can see our network and how it relates to the hazards we filtered down to.
Another very important capability of the DisasterAWARE system, and able to be accessed by the users on the Community Resilience Extreme Events portal, are auto-generated situational awareness products. Most often in map form, they gather together important information about an event and the areas and populations nearby and display it in a useful and effective way. Two examples shown here are the Situational Awareness Map product and the Event Brief, both for the same fire risk event.
Let's take a look at how we can get the products that are generated as part of the hazard. In this case, we're talking about situational awareness products that are auto-generated when the hazard is first created. So first we'll select one of our hazards, in this case a wildfire risk hazard. And we can see that there is a button already for products. When we select that, we get a view over here on the left of a folder that has the situational products in it. We get a view of the folder that has the situational awareness products in it. In this case, one has been generated. If we click on that, we can get a view. And know this is a PDF file that can be downloaded or saved. And that gives us a situational awareness look, including statistics based on affected population and other key points of infrastructure. Let's go back to the hazard one more time and take a look at up here where it says brief. That actually gives us a quick view of information over here on the left side. We can also generate a hazard brief, which gives us a similar look. And then lastly, we're going to take a look to see if we can't get an event brief generated for this hazard. And it should, because its severity is certainly high enough. So we've clicked on it over there, and that's generated. This is not just generated automatically, this is updated regularly as new information comes in. Again, updated automatically. And you can see the level of information that's contained within it and how that might actually affect what you're looking at in the portal.
All users of the DisasterAWARE application, including the users on the Community Resilience Extreme Events portal, are able to get early warning alerts for potential disasters happening anywhere and can respond more quickly to hazards threatening the populations and assets in places they care about.
Now we'll take just a few moments to walk through the basic settings to control the preferences for smart alerting. We do that under the User menu. We go down to the lower left corner, select User, and up pops our preferences. The one we care about first is Smart Alert Notifications. Now you can see right here we have SMS and email both checked. We could do neither, we could do one or the other. Secondly, we look for the selected area. In this case, it defaults to global. We're going to pare that down by using the rectangle tool. There's also a circle, a polygon, and a few other tools for defining an area. In our case, we'll use the rectangle tool to simply draw a rectangle right there around California. And then lastly, we're going to check which hazard we want to be notified about. Now, if we reset all of our defaults, you'll see nothing is checked. What we do instead is we go in here to look for just the ones we care about. And in this case, we're going to look at wildfire. We choose that by choosing the severity. So in our case, we're choosing the warning level, the highest level, and then also the watch level. That means only hazards that reach those levels will trigger a notification for us under Smart Alerting. We could choose as many of the other hazards as we wish, but for this case, we'll just do wildfire. And that's it. The preferences are now complete.
All users of the DisasterAWARE application, including the users on the Community Resilience Extreme Events portal, are able to get early warning alerts for potential disasters happening anywhere, particularly hazards threatening the people and assets in places that specifically concern them. Portal users can learn about how to apply DisasterAWARE technology to protect against disruptions to their supply chain and critical assets, ensuring maximum continuity of operation. PDC's Asset Protection Toolset uses Esri ArcGIS map services to integrate your data. This means user asset data is never stored in DisasterAWARE, but is directly accessed through the user data source provider.
Now we'll briefly walk through setting up asset protection. It's very similar to alerting, but we also need to add the assets that we're going to be monitoring. So here we go into Smart Alert Notifications, and then we choose the asset protection, and we're going to create an asset provider. With that, we're simply going to pick one of our sources that we've already loaded in. We have railway freight stations, so we'll add those. We'll choose the name that we care about. In this case, the field is name. And similarly for any reporting. So now when we go in and bring up our preferences, we see those assets now displaying. As a result, any of these that are in the proper buffer zone to an actual event will trigger an alert sent out and identify the asset that is threatened by the risk.